All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most powerful and, frankly, one of the most unsettling parables Jesus ever told. It's a story that really forces you to look at your choices and, well, their eternal consequences. This is the parable of Lazarus and the rich man.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? The story immediately raises the stakes. It's suggesting that our final destination, our eternity, isn't decided in some big, last-minute moment, but it's actually built piece by piece by the quiet, everyday patterns of our lives. So the story kicks off by painting this picture of two men living in the most extreme contrast you can imagine, separated by literally nothing more than the front gate of a mansion. Now here's a detail you absolutely cannot miss: the names. Or, the lack of one. The guy who's defined by his wealth, he's never even named. He's just the rich man, completely anonymous, identified only by his stuff. But the man in absolute poverty, Lazarus, he gets a name. And his name means God has helped, which tells you everything about where his true identity and hope were. So you see the contrast? One has everything on earth but is spiritually a nobody. The other has nothing but is known by God. And you have to understand, for the people hearing this for the first time, these details were just mind-blowing. Purple dye was insanely expensive. It took thousands of little sea snails just to make a tiny bit of it. It was literally the color of emperors. And fine linen or bizos from Egypt was the softest, most high-end fabric you could possibly imagine. So this guy wasn't just wealthy, he was dripping in it, from his underwear to his robes. He was living a life of non-stop, over-the-top indulgence.
So, here's the crucial point. The parable never says the rich man was evil. He's not accused of stealing or hurting anyone. No, his sin was much quieter, much sneakier. It was the sin of indifference. He saw Lazarus day in and day out, right there at his own gate, a man covered in sores, starving, and he just did nothing. He stepped over him, choosing his own comfort over another person's survival.
And this is where the story just completely flips. Death comes for both of them, and in a single instant, all their earthly circumstances are turned completely upside down. Everything changes. And what a reversal it is. Lazarus dies, probably alone, unnoticed. There's no talk of a funeral, but what nobody on earth sees is that he's being carried by angels to a place of ultimate honor. Then the rich man dies. Oh, he gets the big show, the fancy funeral, the procession, the public mourning. The world honors him, but his soul, it wakes up in agony. All that earthly honor meant absolutely nothing. He finds himself in Hades, a place of torment. And from this place of suffering, he looks up, and, for what might be the very first time, he truly sees Lazarus. But Lazarus isn't the beggar at the gate anymore. Now, he's in a place of comfort, right beside the great patriarch Abraham. The roles haven't just been reversed, they've been permanently flipped. Okay, now the story moves into this conversation in the afterlife. And this is where the central lessons are spelled out with a clarity that is frankly chilling. This is where we learn about the fixed chasm. The man cries out, "Father Abraham, have mercy." But listen to his request. He asks Abraham to send Lazarus to bring him a drop of water. Think about that. Even in torment, his earthly mindset is exactly the same. He still sees Lazarus as an errand boy, someone to be ordered around, not as a fellow human being. And Abraham's reply is so simple and so just. Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, while Lazarus received bad things, but now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And this, of course, leads to the big question that hangs over the whole story. Once this judgment is made, is that it? Is there any hope? Is there any second chance to cross that gulf? The answer that comes back is a hard, terrifying no. Abraham explains that a great, uncrossable chasm has been fixed between them. It's permanent. The opportunity to show compassion, to change, to choose a different path, that was back in life. Now, their destinies are sealed for good. So, realizing his own fate is totally sealed, the rich man's concern, for the very first time, shifts beyond himself. He starts thinking about his family. He begs Abraham to send Lazarus back from the dead to warn his 5 brothers so they don't end up in the same place. He's convinced that what they need is a shocking miracle, right? A ghost story to scare them straight. But Abraham's answer here is maybe the most profound part of the whole story. He says they already have all the warning they need. They have Moses and the prophets, he says. In other words, they have God's word. And then he delivers the final prophetic bombshell. If they're not willing to listen to that, they won't be convinced even if someone literally comes back from the dead to warn them. The problem isn't a lack of evidence, it's a hardened heart.
So why does this ancient story still feel so urgent? Well, the power of this parable is how its truths translate almost too perfectly into our lives right now.
Let's just translate it. The purple and fine linen, that's our obsession with designer labels, the latest iPhone, the symbols of status. The daily feasting, that's our nonstop diet of entertainment, our endless consumerism, our constant digital distractions. And the indifference at the gate? Oh man, that's never been easier. It's scrolling right past a story about a crisis, ignoring a plea for help online, just becoming numb to the suffering we see on our screens every single day.
And this, right here, is the gut punch of the parable. That great chasm, that fixed, uncrossable gulf. It doesn't just magically appear when we die. We're the ones digging it, right here, on Earth, with every small choice. Every time we prioritize our own comfort over someone else's need, every time we look away from the vulnerable, we are personally widening that gap. The calloused heart we build in this life becomes our permanent home in the next.
So in the end, the parable leaves us with this piercing question. You can spend your entire life gaining wealth, status, and comfort. You can build your own private kingdom behind your own gates. But if, in gaining all of that, you lose your very soul, what have you actually gained? This story is a stark reminder that true success isn't measured by what we accumulate, but by what we are willing to give away.